Hello and welcome back to LCIS Inside Out.
What a busy day we've had. We've had a very special visit from Henk Potts.
He's often seen on the WRS radio station and came to talk to us about Brexit.
And now we will show you an interview that we shot this morning by the LCIS Inside Out team. Action. Why did the UK have to leave Europe?
Well, it was a democratic decision for the UK to leave the European Union. From an economic perspective, many people would argue it doesn't make a great deal of sense. It has to be said. We know the UK relies on Europe in terms of its exports. It's a key market. 40% of UK exports go into the European Union. It's a key trading partner for the UK, but people felt they wanted to regain control of their own sovereignty. They wanted to have control over their rules. They wanted to have control over immigration. I think that's part of the reason why the public voted for it. But we should remember it was a very close vote. Lots of people in the UK didn't want it to happen, but it does have a significant impact in terms of the UK economy.
So why was the referendum?
The referendum was held because people wanted to have an opportunity to say, do we want to still be part of Europe? Do we want to listen to the rules? Do we want to participate within Europe? Or do we want to have our own sovereignty within the UK? And that's, I think, been incredibly important. So we go through this process. The UK set to leave the European Union in March 2019. What the relationship with Europe in the future is going to be like is still to be determined.
So we know that the vote has already been made, but can the decision be changed?
I'm not sure we will see the decision changed. We've gone through this democratic process. The people in the UK have been asked. It's hard to believe there's going to be a mechanism that's going to stop the UK from leaving the European Union. The question now is, what type of Brexit are we likely to see? Is it going to be a hard Brexit? Is it going to be a soft Brexit? What is the relationship with Europe going to be like in the future? What access will companies have to the single market? What does the customs union look like? What does it mean in terms of immigration controls? These are the big issues that will be facing the UK negotiators over the course of the next couple of years. Where do we go from here in terms of Brexit? Well, that's a big question, of course. For me, there's four potential scenarios that could play out. Number one, the comprehensive trade agreement is done within the time frame given. What we should remember is, though, a new UK-EU agreement would be more detailed, more expansive than anything that we've seen before. Some would argue, though, that the UK is already aligned with Europe from a standards, from a regulatory perspective, so perhaps it should be quicker. But each and every new line, each and every new clause, it has to be agreement upon. For me, there simply isn't the time frame in order to allow that to happen. The second potential scenario, the opposite to that. The UK crashes out the European Union without a trade agreement in place. Remember, that's exactly what happens under the current rules unless the remaining EU 27 unanimously agree to a time extension. That would come at huge macroeconomic cost to the UK economy, would be very disruptive for businesses. The third scenario is that time extension, and this is totally possible as well. The problem with a time extension is sites come late on in the process. Companies would already had to make contingency plans, have to allocate resources in a suboptimal fashion, and that would be bad news for them as well. But most likely is the fourth scenario that we're hearing so much more about. The fourth scenario is this idea of a transition plan. So a transition plan is a roadmap from where we are today to where we want to be in the future. But effectively it broadens the time horizons. So maybe we go through 2 years of negotiations followed by 2 years of a transition plan. That would allow the legal, the regulatory framework to evolve a little bit more slowly. Companies can make incremental changes, and it would help to avoid the cliff edge Brexit. So that is probably the most positive scenario that you can point to from an economic, from a business perspective.
How will Brexit affect our generation?
Could be very important. I've got a young family. I've got a boy who's 3, Henry. I've got a girl who's 1. I've got a British passport at the moment. My father was Dutch, so I'm in the process of getting my Dutch nationality back to continue to give me an opportunity. The interesting element, my name's Henk Potts, my name was changed by Depot. Unfortunately, the Dutch don't accept Depot, so I could go back to being Henk van Lieshout, which would be a little bit of a shock to most people in the office, it has to be said, but that's by the side. Europe is an incredibly important area. I think the greater access that you have to that, and maybe there's a generation in the UK that won't be able to interact with Europe, have the same opportunities as a generation that went before them, and that would be a real shame, it seems to me. So it could potentially be very limiting if all you have is the ability to work and operate within the UK as opposed to that much broader market within the European Union.